Hi, I'm David with EV World News. We're talking about electric vehicles, green energy, and the stock markets. And I'm back today with our founder and chief editor, Bill Moore. How's it going today, Bill?
Well, it's going fine, thank you. It's a bad hair day. I desperately need a haircut tomorrow, so I'm wearing a hat.
Well, I'm wearing Nebraska colors today, and you're wearing Tennessee colors today. So
Oh,
that's kind
okay.
of interesting. Well,
Okay.
anyways, um, so I wanted to start out talking a little bit about the stock market. Stock market, because of all the tariffs and different things going on, there's definitely some volatility going on in the stock market. And I thought it was interesting because Barron's was reporting that Tesla stock dives. This is from this morning, and the buyer strike is a real problem for Musk. And there's no question that
Oh,
Musk
yeah.
doing the Doge thing is having a really serious negative effect on Tesla. You and I have talked about this, that we think
And it's
that,
and it's impacting owners. Owners' cars are being vandalized.
yeah, I mean, and it's a huge, huge issue. Although, Tesla drivers have nothing to do with
No,
Elon, you know,
no.
but you get crazy people out there that decide that somebody who doesn't support their opinion needs to be
Yeah. Well,
need to be punished, right?
how are you going to get back at Musk rather than maybe, doing something he had a hand in building? It doesn't make sense. I mean, once upon a time, not too long ago, I used to, I'd be out walking and somebody drive by, in their Tesla, and I'd go, "Wow, thumbs up, great." Well, now I don't want to do that because they may think I'm giving them the bird or something. It's
There
just,
you go. There
yeah,
you go. Um,
shame.
yeah, you never really know, do you? But so apparently, we talked about how Tesla was having challenges in Europe, how their sales went down 45% in January,
Hmm.
year over year. Now they're having some weak Chinese sales data. And so they're being hurt being in the Chinese market. And plus, add that up with the buyer strike, it all causes some issues. Well, then Investors Business Daily saying also today came out,
Yep, there we go.
coming out around the same time this morning, saying that a key Tesla stock analyst returned a top pick designation
Yeah, that
um,
was the one. Yeah.
late on Sunday after removing that status on January 31st.
Yep.
Following a mostly disappointing fourth quarter earnings report. Tesla stock had dropped about 30% since the end of January. Now they're saying it's a top pick because now it's priced right. Yeah. And so
Oh,
you've got this
yeah.
artificial drop from the buyer's strike that eventually will come back around. And Morgan Stanley is giving it a target of about
Or something. Yeah.
$430.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a
But
big.
on the other side, there's another guy who came out and set a target of $100.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, everybody can have their number, I guess.
And I thought crypto was volatile.
Yeah, well, it's been on some wild
It
rides
has.
lately too.
Yeah.
But it's just fascinating to see these different opinions on the stock. Some people saying it's a good deal, but it's down almost 5% today. So it's down 4.81% just today, almost $14. It's at $270 again, and it's really kind of jumping all over the place.
All over the place. So is that a buy opportunity or a get out of Dodge opportunity?
Yeah,
Dodge.
he's just one of those
Doge.
people I just don't see betting against Musk. And
Well, he has his hands full though. He's getting one lawsuit after another, not only because of the stuff Doge is doing, right, but
Mhm.
also just simply because of like for example, this what was it, $56 billion paycheck, thing that he wants, and there are labor issues at his plants that he's being sued over,
Mhm.
and I don't know how the guy sleeps because, if I have one little piece of bad news, it keeps me up at night. And this guy's got,
Yeah.
you know,
I've
uh,
owned a lot of companies over the years, and I will tell you that as much as everybody hates lawsuits and different things, it's so easy to get wrapped up or included in somebody else's lawsuit or called to witness or testify about something that's going on for one of your
and that's
customers
and
or a
that's and that's got
creditor.
to that's got to put a pit in the bottom in your stomach.
You hate having that happen because
Yeah.
it's a big time waste and time sink. Um, I've had my companies I've had been sued lots of times, and you wait, and eventually stuff usually just most of them just kind of go away. Don't ever make it to court. It depends on what the situation is. I've owned
Yeah.
I owned a security company, and act if a patron got hurt by a shoplifter, they'd want to sue the guard company
Yeah.
because he couldn't sue the shoplifter, right? Because shoplifter doesn't have any money, right? So you got
He
to
wouldn't be
sue.
shoplifting you if he.
Right. You sue the store, you sue the security company, you sue all these different things. And yeah, I couldn't tell you, I've seen some weird ones. I had some guy that attacked a security guard and then got his butt kicked and then sued us because he got his butt kicked. But he had clearly
Yeah. Yeah.
jumped on the security guard's back, to start a fight. Yeah. So just weirdness, right? Anyways, let's switch over to California.
Some
All
good
right.
news.
I don't know. This is kind of funny. So remember they were going to do the $15,000 e-bike vouchers for California.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So apparently 1,500 people actually did get them. So they only gave it to 10% of the initial amount because there was all these people. There was this deal where you had people were complaining they couldn't even get through because the servers were hit so hard because
Right.
so many people tried to
They,
apply for
they
this
had
credit when they opened it up.
100,000 people apply for that first time, and apparently they only had 1,500 vouchers available because it's a pilot program, right? They wanted to
Right.
see, well, how's it going to go? It went well. It went too well.
Let's see. I can't increase this. Oh, see how big I can make
And then,
this.
and then on the other side of the Atlantic, there's Leicester, England, right? Which they are confiscating illegal electric bikes over there. And so the article said, well, the city has distributed some pamphlets, right, that electric bikes are illegal, but it didn't explain how they were illegal. So I had to dig into it and try to figure out, well, why are they legal, right, or illegal? And apparently, you're not allowed to ride them within a core of the city of Leicester. You can ride them. Apparently, you can ride them on the street, but they can't be like our electric bikes. They have to be European standard, which means they have to be what we call pedal assist. In other words, you can't sit back and throw a throttle, right? Twist a throttle or
Hmm.
a throttle button and it go. You have to pedal, and there's a sensor in the motor that says, well, he needs a little extra help. It kicks in. So that's limited to 250 watts,
Okay.
which is a third of a horsepower, which is the
Hmm.
European standard. Over here in the U.S., you can get up to a full horsepower, and in some cases, that the bike can't go faster than I think it's like 12 miles an hour in Europe, something like that, and over here you can go 28, depending on the one of the three classes. We have the same class called Class 1 in the United States, which is similar to the European standard. Then there's a Class 2, which is more or less like the bikes I have, which you can have a throttle. So you can
Hmm.
sort of take a break and let the motor do the work. And then there's the one where you can basically, it's a bicycle like motorcycle. We've got a neighbor down here, his teenage son has one. In fact, I just saw him the other day zipping around on the streets. Um, so over there, they're a lot stricter. And so they've confiscated a whole mass of bicycles from people. They just were riding where they weren't supposed to, or had the kind of bike they weren't supposed to.
Oh my. Well, nobody ever said the transition to green energy was going to be smooth,
No,
right?
no,
That
no.
that's funny. There's this video that they show all the time of some guy in the UK with a Tesla, and a bobby or a cop is writing him a ticket for parking in a electric vehicle space, and he's in a Tesla, and he's trying to argue with the guy that he's in an electric car, and the cop says, "No, it's not." And you know, but
It's it's a Tesla, and it's not.
yeah, that's what the police officer is trying to tell him, that it's not, and he gives him a ticket. It says he can go fight it in court. You know, yeah.
Uh,
But that video is a few years old,
yeah,
so you probably saw the Tesla, a Model S was probably what it was, and just didn't, you know, it's not so obvious that the Model S is a electric car. It just, doesn't have anything that really gives it away other than the fact it's a Tesla, right?
yeah.
So, um, but anyways, yeah. So so 100,000 people applied. 98,000 of them got this window right away. The application window is now closed. This is like in the first minute,
Yeah,
of
yeah.
doing this, and um, so it just didn't go real well. But 1,500 people did get it, and it's kind of like getting the golden ticket from Willy Wonka.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
yeah,
Now
so
the sad part about that story, by the way, is the next paragraph, a couple paragraphs down, where a lady
about
up
the
there, yeah, the lady decides to use her car to run down some teenagers who supposedly had beat up, was it her daughter, I think, something like that.
Mhm.
So anyway,
Oh
but
God. Oh Lord.
yeah,
Yeah, well, so the state selected San Diego nonprofit called Pedal Ahead to mismanage the program, then booted them after the company and its founder came under multiple investigations, criminal and otherwise. What the hell? We're getting criminal investigations into some kind of a e-bike racketeering or something here going on.
yeah,
Um, Somehow CARB can get their act together and right the sinking ship before it goes under completely. I mean, I don't know that they really need to give everybody $1,500 for an e-bike. I mean, they could have spread that out a lot thinner, $500, whatever.
well, yeah, you can, yeah, I would, yeah, don't give them the, well, you want them to get a
California.
quality bike. You don't want them to get a bike that's, that's going to have faulty battery and it's going to burn somebody's, apartment down or their home in their neighborhood. So you got to, there's a certain level. And of course, things are expensive in California anyway. So maybe they felt that was needed. Yeah, but they could probably get by with less.
So in the weed industry, they tried to make it so that they called it the social equity program, to make it so that minorities would get favored to get the things, but you still had to come up with two or $300,000 to get through the whole application process to get
Right.
your marijuana sales license. And
Now,
um,
where
it
was this?
this is in California,
Oh, California.
okay,
Okay.
and this is for recreational marijuana sales,
Right.
okay.
Right.
And what happened is, so the main demographic that got the things are Middle Eastern, which I don't think was the intent of the whole social equity thing. You had to be pretty well off to be able to
To
get
finish
the
the
deal done.
process. Yeah.
Yeah, and it really was poorly handled. In California, 2/3 of all, where we've had medicinal marijuana and all this, and recreational, 2/3 of all the weed sold in that state is still black market, because it's too expensive to buy the legit weed because of all the taxes and all the red tape.
Mm,
It's
okay.
real. It's really, it was good ideas. There were
Yeah.
good ideas. They made sense. It's like, hey, we can do these things for the community, and it just hasn't worked out the way anybody ever
Yeah. Hey,
envisioned.
let me ask you, we're having this debate right now here in the state
Hmm.
where the voters approved the dispensing, I guess the best term to use, of marijuana for medical purposes, right?
Hmm.
And there are legitimate needs. We had people showing up at the Capitol, I think it was yesterday. Yeah, yesterday, that were, with their kids there. who have epilepsy and other things, and that the marijuana, in fact, does help them, right?
Hmm.
Um, but then we have, we have this representative, this state senator, and others, obviously, that want to put all kinds, such constraints on it that why bother, you know? So I'm wondering how you having, followed this as a former part-time law officer or whatever, where do
Hmm.
you come down on it?
Well, 30 years ago, I was really against weed, but I've completely reversed on that over the years. Um, you know, I don't know how the Nebraska statutes are being written or, where all that lies. I don't think it's a negative for the state in any way. I don't think we're losing out on anything. I really think you know, it's probably got more benefit than it has negativity. Whole thing is trying to keep it out of the schools. The problem is if it works out anything like the California model, the stuff in the schools is still going to be the illegal stuff anyways.
Yeah,
And it's a real challenge because a lot of it, in some states, they tax the weed twice. And I'm not sure of all the states, but in a lot of states, the grower has to add a 50% tax when they sell it to a distributor, and then the eventual store or end seller to the customer has to
right.
charge a 50% tax
As
to the
well.
end
Yeah,
buyer as well. And
yeah.
it starts making the product just too expensive. And there's extreme. I helped somebody get a weed distribution license in California previously. Okay, so I've been through all the stages of that, and it was really incredible the level and detail of reporting you have to give to the state of California. I mean, it's almost like you're a pharma. I mean, and this is on recreational. This wasn't medicinal. You're
Yeah.
basically a pharmacy,
Yeah.
and it's almost the same level of computer reporting, all this on your sales, everything that you would
And
if you were a pharmacy, and that's
and
a
the
high level of
yeah,
expectation.
and the kicker is that it's still a scheduled drug according to the federal government. Therefore, it's difficult, if not impossible, to get banks, right?
Yeah,
To
yeah.
to
The whole
accept
thing for
the
the credit
money.
card processing, all this other is nearly impossible. There are a whole bunch of apps out there where you can essentially fund a gift card, and then you can use a gift card to buy the
Uh,
weed. And this is how a lot of places have skirted
yeah.
some of these things, but it's really difficult. There's starting to be more and more fintech type solutions in that space, but it's difficult. The only reason I'm sharing this is because we're talking about this whole thing with the e-bikes in California
Right.
and how it was a good idea. It just didn't work out that well. And then, it's interesting to see how some of these things play out. I mean, obviously, you don't need people who are wealthy and all that necessarily. Getting the idea was to get people who are lower income who probably could use a method of transportation to help them out.
Yeah.
And that's probably not where these ended up. Okay. So there might have been a few, but for the most part, it isn't where they ended up.
Yeah.
But
So they need somebody. You should go talk to. Apparently, Colorado. I guess Colorado's done a fair job of. I don't know about the marijuana side, but certainly about the e-bike credits. They've already done that on a much larger scale than what they did in California.
yeah, it's interesting because you would imagine in California where the weather is a whole lot better. I mean, you wouldn't want to be riding around your e-bike today. We're supposed to have 3 to 5 inches of snow and a blizzard this
Yeah,
evening. I mean,
70-mile-an-hour wind gusts. Thank you. Yeah.
yeah, um, yeah, that's I don't know. I'm always amazed because they announced this like a week ago. Okay, and it's like they're still sticking to that forecast, and I'm like, well, is that really going to happen tonight or what?
Well, how do we
Uh,
know? Because they let go all kind of bunch of people let the National Weather Office. So I don't
Did
know.
they? Oh, okay. Well, maybe
Yeah.
we won't get weather anymore. Yeah.
Well, yeah. So
Who knows?
anyway,
Who
yeah.
knows?
Who knows now?
I was kind of laughing. I was reading something earlier that the Democrat side of the House is talking about letting the government shut down and not, funding. And this is always something that they do in Congress is they, threaten these shutdowns. But the thing is, if they do the shutdown, it'll close down all non-essential services in the federal government. Well, isn't that kind of what Doge is looking for? Is to figure out what the non-essential services are and cut them? I mean, I really think
Uh,
they're playing into Trump and Musk, into what they want. Unknowingly, they're going to do this. Like, okay, those things are all
uh,
gone. We're good. No, I don't
yeah.
know. That's probably not going to happen. But I'm just like, I'm sitting here thinking, it's like, man, that would really be
Yeah,
good for the taxpayers.
the Democratic Party is having a hard time figuring out how to handle this situation. So I guess
Yeah,
time will tell.
both
Of
parties used to be
course,
a little closer together. We had, both parties were Christian. Both parties wanted to be the fiscally responsible party. There was all these things, and it was just basically a matter of, do you trust David or do you trust Bill? It wasn't a matter that we were that much different politically. Now the two parties, one's talking about more about fiscal responsibility, one's talking more about social responsibility, and the two really don't cross over. Okay, and so you're starting to have this divide in politics where, um, one is, one is more emotional, one is more rational, and they're not talking the same things, they're not working through them. One party is big on one topic, the other party doesn't care, and it seems to pretty much go both ways, that whatever one party is really thinks is important, the other one acts as if it's completely unimportant.
yeah.
And
Well,
at some point,
good
at
case
some
is
point we're
electric
all
car.
Americans, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, it's like, I'm always kind of stupefied as to why it's even a political issue. I mean, we see silly things like we were talking about, the 8,000 federal charging stations are going to be turned off. And it's like,
Yeah,
that makes
and
sense
I saw
why.
somebody speculating it's going to cost $1 billion to decommission those. And apparently, what they're thinking is that somebody's going to have to go around and yank them out of the ground. Right now,
Yeah, I don't see that happening.
no, I don't see that happening either.
They'll just turn
But
them off for a while.
yeah, just turn them off, keep
They'll
them
be back
there.
on eventually. I mean, they're going to need them eventually.
Yeah,
Um,
yep.
you know, you and I both know gas cars are going away. That's one of our next, we can even
Next,
segue into that.
nice
So,
segue. Yes,
yeah. So, USA vehicles, USA, now this is 2019 versus 2024, a 5-year
right,
period.
right.
And I do realize there was a huge jump because the Model 3 had come out on the scene, right? So the Model 3 came, and that really changed the trajectory of how EVs were being sold in the United States.
Oh,
Okay.
significantly. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the Model 3, the Model S was a big deal. The Model 3 was really a big deal.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Actually, no comparison.
Yeah.
Given
And
the negativity, the price of the Model X, there are all
mhm,
the problems with the Hawk doors or whatever they're called,
the Falcon
and
doors.
the Falcon doors. Yeah. So the Model 3 came along, right price, right size, no funky features, doors that do this kind of a thing,
Right.
and took off. Then the
Um,
Y has subsequently eclipsed that significantly.
yeah. Just a little bit roomier vehicle. That's all. Well, and it's roomier in the back seat. That's a big part of the why.
Yeah.
That makes a big difference because the 3 has no back seat space. It has no trunk space. You're lucky you can get 2 suitcases in the 3 in the back. I mean, it's really not designed to haul anything.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah. So in that 5-year span, U.S. electric vehicle sales went up 478%
Hmm.
in a 5-year period, and in the same time period, fossil fuel vehicles went down 12%.
Yeah.
So that's not saying that overall car sales went down 12%, but fossil fuel cars went down
Shifting. Yeah,
12%.
shifting.
Yeah, so there's a big shift in where that is going, and it wasn't a huge change in certain years, but overall U.S. auto sales are down 6% from 2019. Okay, so it's 12% for fossil fuels, 6% overall for the
Overall,
auto
yeah.
industry. And, so cars weren't quite bought as much, but we've had, some weird economy years in there too.
Well,
So,
then, yeah, you had COVID, which really threw a
yeah.
monkey wrench into everything. And
Um,
and now, and who knows what's going to happen now? Because as of what, midnight, the tariffs have now kicked in against Canada and Mexico. So who knows what's going to happen there?
yeah, I suspect we're going to see a change in that too. I think a lot of this is with the tariffs with Canada and Mexico has more to do with ramping up border security than it does with actually tariffing them. I did see some things though about the timber industry where the United States is going to try to do some things protect timber. And I remember, oh, when Trump was president the first time, there was some tariffs put in on foreign timber, and the price of lumber went up a lot.
Oh yeah, I remember going to the Lowe's or Home Depot and picking up a tube of 4 inch. Oh, hello, dog.
Yeah, so there we go. Another voice is heard.
Yeah,
Oh, I may have to mute myself.
yeah. Well, so the timber, prices they were. I think they're only now had been starting to come back down, but then it went through the roof, and of course that had an impact on the housing industry. Just we were finally starting to looks like getting things back together, and now we got. And I guess the Canadians have got something up their sleeve. They're really going to apparently. I don't know whether it's cut off our supply of maple syrup or what they have in mind, but apparently they're coming up with some ways to retaliate, and so is Mexico, which you
Yeah.
just don't want to see.
Well, you say that, it's I think a lot of this stuff has been, as Trump has said, a lot of this stuff has been building up over the years. And maybe the United States has been taken advantage of. But you think about it, the United States is one of the few benevolent countries in the history of the planet. After World War II, we had the strongest military in the world. We could easily have decided to make Japan a colony. We could have decided to make, various parts of the world our own colonies, but no, we tried to give them all back. you know,
Well, yeah, but
and we gave back
but
the Philippines and a whole lot of other places. It's like, what other countries do that? We rebuilt our enemies, and things like that.
yeah,
But the United States has really paid more than its fair share of other countries' expenses. Our
yeah,
country's
but
prosperity.
yeah, but at the same time, we created the petrodollar, so we
Mhm.
didn't necessarily, and we do have military bases scattered all over the world. So okay, we
But Bill, you
didn't
got to
we
remember,
didn't we didn't declare Canada our 51st state, right?
no, no, but
Or Ireland our 52nd.
Bill, you got to remember, petroleum was the answer to horse crap. Okay, it solved the horse crap problem for the whole world, right? So now we've got the climate crisis, and we've got everything that's going on in sustainable energy, sustainable. I told you I work on a project in sustainable building materials, and it's so much greener than what we'll even admit. It's really hard to factor. Basically, building exteriors, they're doing wood framing. This company's product has R40 insulation built in, and to think about how much that cut its cost from like heating and air conditioning perspective.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah. Well, tell me more some other time. I'd
yes,
love to
yes,
hear.
yeah, but yeah, I see regenerative building products. I see all this stuff, in sustainable energy. And I had somebody, it's like, you do know that your EVs are powered by fossil fuels, and it's like, well, actually,
We're
you're
not.
somewhat right. 40% LNG, about 18% coal, 22% nuclear, or about 20% nuclear, 22% solar, wind, and hydro, and what was it? Is there, am I missing one? I think that adds up to 100. But it's really funny. People don't realize that the sustainable stuff is actually 40% of all U.S. energy
Yep.
generation. That
And,
coal and LNG is only like 58% now.
and renewables have been, at least for the last couple years, have been the chief contributor to increase in the electrical power on the grid. It's renewables, not natural gas plants, not more coal, being dug out of the ground. It's renewable solar and wind that's doing that. And now the thing that I find promising, because I've been arguing this for a long time, is that you come on, guys, you don't need to keep pulling that damn carbon out of the ground and throwing it in the atmosphere, because that's where it's ending up. Use your drilling technology to go down and get the Earth's heat and use that
Geothermal.
heat to generate electricity. That's going to be so much better. And we're finally now starting to see that happen where, companies that have spent all their, lives, pulling natural gas and oil out of the ground are now realizing that let's use that heat directly, and we don't have to pull that carbon up and throw it in the atmosphere and then try to figure out how to get it back out. Because that's where we're at right now. I had a number of articles that I posted over the weekend, on the carbon capture and sequestration. That's
Mhm.
what would be needed to do that mechanically. We just don't have the resources and the money to invest in doing that. We got to come up with other ways. So the best way, just stop pulling it out of the ground. Leave it there. We got other ways we can do this now.
Yeah, well, sadly, we know it's going to be a while before that ever
Oh,
happens.
well, sure. You
Yeah,
got
but
too many guys with too many yachts they have to pay for.
there you go. Well, energy is just such a big part. I love the energy independence thing. I told you I was trying to work with an African nation to do something, but somebody new was going to become president. Well, the old guy who was retiring changed his mind. He
Oh,
stayed
okay,
president, but
sure,
he's been, to be fair. This is Botswana we're talking about.
okay.
Botswana is considered to be the least corrupt country in all of Africa. This guy's done a very good job. They're the only African nation that's considered to be worthwhile to actually buy their government bonds.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean nobody
This
else
is
on that
Yes.
continent is considered to be
So
worth.
yeah, so this is in the south of Africa. It is Botswana is an independent nation within sort of the larger sphere of South Africa, if I
So
remember correctly.
I think Gaborone's the name of the capital. It's on the border with South Africa.
Right,
So it's bordered by Namibia on the west. It's got Zimbabwe on the
right. The
east, and
Zimbabwe.
it's
Yeah.
got somebody on the north that exports hydroelectric.
Okay.
I can't remember, like Zambia or Zaire might be. I think it's Zaire.
Okay.
Anyways, but they import energy from South Africa and the one with the hydro above it.
Right.
Okay.
The South
And
African one will be mostly coal. That's
yeah, and we were proposing, because they're in a great zone for solar and battery storage.
yeah.
They could easily um, become energy independent from their neighbors. And some of those countries have volatile. I mean, Zimbabwe's had a regime change a couple of years ago. South Africa has questionable governance currently. Um, I don't know about Namibia. I don't know if anybody even lives there. you know,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. There is
I think they might they might make Nebraska look populated.
yeah. Well, yeah, I think it's called the capital's Windhoek, I believe. There is a gentleman that is actually doing some work there to provide a conservation group or some conservation groups there with aircraft to patrol the elephant herds and make sure that you keep down the poaching and things like that. And that's a gentleman that used to be the editor in chief of the AOPA magazine.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting is this is really getting off topic.
We
They're
really are.
they're half of their annual budget comes from De Beers. They do a 50-50 split with De Beers Diamonds.
Yeah.
And so most
That's
of the
Botswana we're talking about.
Yeah, Botswana. They have an annual budget of about $20 billion, and half of that comes from their 50-50 partnership with De Beers. So they obviously the diamond profit out of that country is about 20 billion. They get 10 billion and De Beers gets 10 billion.
Yeah.
Healthy business for De Beers, but they're very dependent on that. They're not a very agriculture, but it was a country I was trying to help with energy.
Yeah.
But they were supposed to have a peaceful. Well, the current leader is doing good, but he was going to retire, and he decided, nah, I'm going to go ahead and just stay where I'm at. And he had no problem getting reelected. There's no threat to his reelection because he does a pretty good job, it looks like.
Well, good. That's nice.
Yeah, which is nice to see that in the world political stage. So, anyways, let's move on to talking about article from Jigar Shah, who was the former head of the Loan Program Office for the Department of Energy, came on our show a few weeks ago, and he's talking about automakers don't talk enough about electric cars or about used electric cars.
Used electric cars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, while you and I have talked about it a fair amount, we're not in the car business, but used EVs, including battery electric and plug-in hybrid, topped 500,000 units last year and are expected to accelerate in the coming years and should grow 5x in the next 4 years.
Yeah.
So within 4 years should be about 2.5 million used EVs per year. It's funny. I hear these things like, oh, people don't want those used EVs. It's like, well, it really depends. If they're above $25,000, they probably don't sell great.
Especially right now.
Yeah. Well,
Just FYI, it looks like my Prius has finally bit the dust. So anyway.
Well, you say that. I mean, you've only got 70,000 miles on it. I just can't imagine.
Only 70,000 miles, but apparently whatever it is, it's the electrical system. So.
Okay. Well, anyways, hopefully it won't be that bad. You never know. But
well, hey, I'm using it as an excuse to convince my wife to get rid of 2 cars to 1 car.
Oh, that's you go before the big federal tax, right?
Yeah.
But of course, that wouldn't affect a used car. But anyways, it's interesting to kind of see now in our part of the country, you can't hardly find a used EV. They don't really exist. I mean, the used EV market's more of a West Coast thing than anything else because that's where they all are.
Yeah, that's where my Fiat came from. I had to bring it. I bought it sight unseen, other than a lot of photographs that the dealership, had of it, and said, okay, I'll take that one and send it to me. And here's my payment for the car, and here's the payment for the transportation. So I've done that before, and I'll probably do that again.
Yeah, but it's interesting to see. I think that if people are really out shopping for one, Hertz is probably a good one because they sell their used rental cars directly.
Interestingly, though, I'm not at the moment sure that I want to buy a used Tesla. But
I
understand
get you, Bill.
the reason why,
Bill, you want to go ahead and why don't you go ahead and start talking about Archer? Talk about the new Archer EV
this is really interesting. Archer, of course, is a company that builds an electric VTOL aircraft, and they are planning. There's still lots of legislation and regulations, the FAA and other things it has to go through, but they have been working on a deal with the government of I think it's Abu Dhabi. I'd have to bring up the headline here and Dave's walked off to apparently take care of his dog. So what they're going to be doing is they are actually aiming to begin to set up a small fleet. This is going to be sort of a test program for them outside of the United States, and apparently the government there in I'm assuming it's Abu Dhabi. I have to go and look up the article, but they're going to run tests, and hopefully before the end of the year, they're going to be carrying passengers. Now, it's one thing, you can put a test pilot in a aircraft, and with approval, the FAA says, okay, we think it's airworthy, and it's not going to fall out of the sky, and kill innocent people on the ground. They'll let you do that, but then it has to go to other steps to get to the point to where we now allow you to carry passengers in the aircraft. And that's what Abu Dhabi is hoping to accomplish, and to demonstrate to the FAA by running this pilot operation in the Middle East on the Persian Gulf area, that they can in fact carry passengers safely. What they're going to do with this, there's a couple of models. One is simply, hey, this is a new technology. You want to be the first person on your block to fly an electric VTOL? We're here, right? Or it becomes a way to carry medical supplies, or becomes a way to, for somebody that has enough sufficient income, a high net worth person, to fly over the crowds, right, and get to his destination. Say, get from, for example, there's already been tests done to fly from like LaGuardia to downtown Manhattan, which typically, as we've talked about before, typically takes a good hour or more, depending on the traffic. Whereas an aircraft like the Archer, you can do that basically in minutes. It's 10-15 minute flight at most. So that's the aircraft. They're going to be doing the hopefully, like I said, carrying passengers on the Persian Gulf there before the year is out. That is so cool.
Yeah, they're sharp-looking aircraft, at least.
Yeah, different, really different. This whole area just absolutely fascinates me, because I've been following the evolution of electric flight for the last, 27, 28 years now. So to see something like this develop, completely unexpected, but exciting to see.
Well, there's got to be some kind of economics that make this work.
Oh yeah,
So
absolutely.
it's like I've said before, that's one of the things about sustainability, is it's tough to make it without making the market conditions work. And this is why I've said, we talk about how much it's not that I have anything personal against hydrogen. It's just, I don't see any way that the market economics ever work unless something dramatically changes, some major breakthrough happens.
Yeah, well, we talked about that, was it last week? We were wondering, well, what's the price of hydrogen on a gallon basis? Although it's not really measured in gallons, it's measured in liters and things like that. But after we hung up, I did a little research, and turns out that on a global basis, a gallon, the equivalent of a gallon of hydrogen right now, is about $16. So
Yes.
you can imagine pulling into your service station to fuel up your hydrogen powered SUV or whatever it is, and the thing keeps ticking over. $16, $16, $16.
Yeah.
It's going to be expensive.
Yeah, versus the equivalent of electricity is about the equivalent of about $1 a gallon.
Yeah, in electricity. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So it's just, when you're 16xing the cost of an EV, it just doesn't make any sense. It's just like the arguments I've seen where we're wasting time doing the transition to plug-in hybrids. Plug-in hybrids, like Jigger was saying, make sense for people who don't necessarily want to explain how the new electric part works versus the gas part. But it, in the greater scheme of things, it's just one more thing to kind of have more problems with and more expense in the manufacturing space. But anyways, no, it's good to see Archer doing something, and we've seen, we saw that we discussed Lilium and the other one that, Eviation, that they just haven't,
Haven't
they
had to make
didn't
it.
work
Yeah.
out,
Yeah.
and so it's nice seeing that Archer is, sticking with it, and hopefully will be a commercial success. Anyways, Bill, that's all we've got for today.
That works for
Um,
me.
and I'll be back tomorrow with our engineer, Mike Herzog.
Well,
Otherwise,
that's assuming we have power.
oh yeah, well, if the blizzard doesn't knock everything out.
Yeah, we are in for a blizzard. I mean, okay, it was like in the upper 50s. In fact, there were a couple days on the weekend when it was over 60 degrees. And
Mhm.
now we're talking about tonight starting a blizzard with 60 to 70-mile-an-hour wind gusts and 3 to 6 inches of snow. Welcome to Nebraska.
Yeah, no question. It's crazy to think that we've got that weather coming on today.
Yep.
But we'll get through it.
All
We're
right.
hardy.
We'll
We're
get
hardy
there.
folk, right?
Yep.
Anyways,
We're
folks,
hardy
have a
folk.
great day. All right.